So, first press conference of the new season. How are you feeling, ahead of tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm obviously excited, like I suppose, everybody up and down the country, whether you're a fan, a player, coach, directors. It's that one game of the season, and it probably lasts more, but it's that one game of the season where everybody goes into the game with hope of some sort. So it's exciting. We've prepared as best we possibly can. We've worked really, really hard as a group. We tried to be as professional as we can and try to change the mood and the mindset of the players. And I think we have done that. There's been a few ups and downs, as there always is, but yeah, I think we're in a pretty good position. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, this is obviously your first pre-season since taking permanent charge. How have you managed pre-season over the last couple of months?
Yeah, I think, well, obviously time will tell, but, I think, we've been pleased the way it's gone. Firstly, from a recruitment point of view, in terms of we recognise that from a financial point of view, we're not going to be able to compete with a hell of a lot of clubs at this level. But what we can be smart and can we move quick. And I think we were quite smart and moved really, really quickly on a few players. As when that happens, obviously, it acts as almost like a bit of a catalyst for other good things to happen. And people talk, and obviously, if there's a shift and a change in sort of mentality very, very quickly, you can get a lot of positives. So we were happy with that initially, and then the workload and the games that have gone on in the last sort of 6 weeks or so, I think there's been a steady progression in terms of performances and what we want from the players. Most of the players have got equal sort of minutes over the period, which has been good. So, there's no one, other than if they picked up an injury. Obviously, there's a couple, obviously, that you have seen that have not been involved in too many. Other than those who've had injuries, everyone else is in pretty good shape.
Talking about your recruitment, 7 new faces in. Are you happy with that number going into the first game?
Yeah, and I think we have to be. I think you'd always want more. You'd always be greedy and want more and have more if you could. But we're not fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I'm thankful that we were able to bring in some new bodies, and like I say, I keep using the word mindset because it's true. A different look to what we want to do and how we want to do things. I think the lads that have come in have give not only the place itself, but the players that were already in the building a new lease of life. And I think there's been a real good feel factor around the training ground for 6 or 7 weeks now, and it's an enjoyable place to come to work. And I think the lads feel that as well. It's one of them where when we're on the grass, there's a seriousness to it. That's what I want and that's what I demand. But certainly as soon as we come off the grass, I want players to enjoy themselves and relax and stay here as long as possible, as daft as that sounds. We haven't got lots of stuff to do beyond, obviously, being well trained and well fed. But I want them to sort of enjoy staying and being in each other's company as long as possible.
A lot of those that you brought in there as well have a wealth of experience in the EFL. Obviously, a decision you've made to bring in some of that experience going into next season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, obviously, when you come into a situation, I have had it a couple of times in my career, but I remember going into Oxford on the back of them losing 9 out of their last 10 games the previous season. And it was really, really difficult to shift the mindset and shift the change. And I think a lot of that was down to the recruitment that we did in that first window was really difficult because we couldn't get rid of players because they were under contract, and the players that we brought in weren't quite at the level that we would want, but that was just where we were at. The chance when we got real chance to impact that was in the January, and we brought some, what I would use the word catalysts to, change, basically, to change the way everyone thought. And I think the lads that have come in, I think they've helped that. Not only are they good people and good characters, there's a real sort of leadership between them. And then on top of that, you know, we've got players who know how to get out of this league and have been promoted out of this league, and whether we're capable of doing that this year, I think it's, you know, very early to say that. And I think when people look at it from a financial point of view, they probably give us absolutely no chance. I think my objective, and I've heard it been said before, and I've said it before, is to just make sure that we we do better than what our budget is and be competitive.
Yeah, obviously conceding goals was the issue last season, and a lot of that experience that you brought in is in the shape of defenders and knowledgeable and, you know, centre halves that you've brought in to solidify that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that was the thought process. You know, different teams need different strategies, but the strategy was quite sort of simple, really, for us. We knew we'd have to work from back to front. Sounds sensible, it does, but in the past, I have been known to do it the other way because I like attacking players, I like scoring goals, I like, dare I say, winning games 3-2 instead of 1-0. But, you know, ultimately we are in a league where it's going to be a battle of attrition. There's a lot of teams play a very similar way. We just wanted to make sure we give ourselves a platform and the best chance to be competitive in all the games, and we just felt that the right way to do was to build from back to front.
And are you expecting many more incomings or outgoings before the end of the window?
Not massive amounts. I think organically it will just happen. It will naturally just happen because, you know, there'll be players who feel that they should be either in the team or on the bench that don't get those opportunities, and before the 2nd of September things and conversations will naturally take place. I'd like to think that certainly in attacking areas that there'll be opportunities between now and the 2nd of September to strengthen there and just give us a few different attributes to what we've got at the minute.
You brought in Eli Harrison on loan from Manchester United, and throughout your career you've got a track record of bringing in these loan players and making something of them. Is that a market that you think you will be looking at before the end of the window? Yeah,
absolutely. I'd, being naive and I'd be lying if I said no. I think you tend to find that a lot of the loan players that come out from these Premier League clubs don't really come out till late. You know, I know some get done early, but, you know, there's a lot of sort of things that those clubs have to do. Obviously, they've got to navigate their own pre-season and make sure they've got enough numbers to deal with their pre-season and their games, and they go on tour and they take their young players with them. And then obviously once they start having to name their 25-man squads, etc., then there becomes an opportunity to get these young players and these talented players. So bringing players in is one thing, bringing the right players in is the most important thing. So yeah, we'll be looking to do that if we get the opportunity, but also, you know, I want to bring players in who recognise, you know, where they're coming to and the importance of it.
I suppose it makes it more difficult when the Championship isn't even starting for another week or so, yeah. Everyone's still assessing what they've got.
Absolutely, yeah, no, and you know, it's one of them where you look at the Championship now and some of the size of the clubs and probably some of the size of the squads that are in the Championship is quite frightening, to be honest with you. Whereas we find ourselves with, you know, a 20-man squad which includes a couple of goalkeepers, and we have to do that. We have to do that because if we don't, we won't be able to compete. You know, if I find myself in a position where I've got an extra 3 or 4 players in the group, as an example, yes, we'll have extra numbers and we won't have to worry about numbers most weeks, but we won't be able to compete. You know, so it's a strategic decision that hopefully, with a little bit of luck and hard work, will pay off.
And we've seen a lot of the academy players coming up and playing throughout pre-season as well. How impressed have you been with them making that step up? Yeah,
I've been delighted with them. I mean, obviously, there's a few of them, especially who it's too soon and too early to expose them to the first team, and certainly from a league point of view. Having said that, they've done themselves a world of good. I think they've enjoyed being in the environment. I think being exposed and having to perform at a level that not only do I demand and the coaching staff demand, but the players that they're playing with demand, it's only going to benefit them. I think majority of them, a lot of them will go out on loan now and play men's football on a regular basis, but at the same time still get some sort of education and coaching from our point of view that over a period of time, hopefully they'll keep improving, keep getting better, and getting even closer to, the first team.
We spoke about the experience you've brought in. Who's your captain going to be?
There's no change. Obviously, John Marquis, I thought last season was outstanding for me in that period of time. I think, having worked with John before, obviously, I think people in the past have maybe struggled with him a little bit. I actually quite like those players that challenge you a little bit at times. My history tells that, some of the players that I've signed that other managers have maybe struggled with or didn't really want to sort of go down that line. I think John is someone who's bought in massively to what I want to do and how I want to do it, and he did. In that 6 months we had him at Lincoln, he came into a really young squad at Lincoln and bought into what we wanted to do straight away. So yeah, I'm like more than happy sort of keeping him in that role, because he's shown already with this group, all of a sudden it's a very different group to last year. There's a lot more vocals, there's a lot more leaders in the group, and that sort of transition for him has probably made it easier.
You joined the club when they were struggling, of course, in League One, and had off-field problems, on-field problems. A lot was going on. How have you managed to kind of bring everyone back together from that very difficult time?
Well, I think obviously the recruitment of some fresh blood obviously helps, some fresh players, that definitely helps. The type of people they are, because it's in any organisation, any business, if you want to be successful, want to create a right culture and environment, you need the right people. It's not just about bringing numbers in and bodies in, they have to be the right people. So for me, it was just trying to recruit the right characters, creating an environment that first and foremost is disciplined. So there's a discipline to what we do. But then more importantly, for me, you have to create an environment where people can express themselves, and I want the players to express themselves on and off the pitch, and I think that's why we will be appealing to sort of Premier League clubs and young players as and when that happens. So yeah, the environment is certainly very much a working environment, but certainly one that we want to have a bit of laugh and a crack, because ultimately it can become very serious over 9 months, and if you can't pick the right moments to enjoy yourself, it becomes very tiring as well.
For those that haven't seen you throughout pre-season, the pitch is noticeably smaller. Obviously a decision you've made for the type of football you want to play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that I have done in the past before, and has been quite successful for us. The idea behind it, there's no rocket science. It's basically, we'll back ourselves with the ball to be as good as the opposition at this level. My worry or concern would have been keeping it as it was. Why would we give any advantage to the opposition? If I didn't think we were going to be a particularly decent side with a ball, or I was worried about the opposition, then it'd be a different kettle of fish. But knowing that we back ourselves, I want to make sure that out of possession we can get up to the ball, we can stop crosses. This league is very much a crossing league in terms of a lot of the teams in it. They work crossing areas and they get balls into the box. You could argue that the smaller the pitch, the easier it is to get the ball into the box, but that will be straight balls, whereas I just want to make sure when the ball goes into wide areas, we get a great chance of stopping crosses. And obviously, on top of that, we've gone with a free at the back, and that's been quite useful for us pre-season. So with the size of the pitch, the recruitment we've done, the type of players that we've done, I just like to think there's a little bit of science behind it, a little bit of thought behind it. It doesn't always happen, but I'd like to think our fans, supporters up and down, Shropshire and Shrewsbury especially, realise that there's actually a plan in place, and we're trying to do that. Have
you been set, or will you set a target of where you want to finish?
No, the only sort of target I will give myself, and I'll literally, back myself 100%, is that we'll finish higher than what our budget is. We will outperform our budget, whatever that is, and obviously we don't know them until around about January time, I think it is, when they come out. So in the meantime, I think just making sure we're really competitive in every single game, and I think we've got a group that are capable of being competitive. The small decisions sometimes are going to have to go our way. The little things, whether it's injuries or suspensions, they have to sort of go our way. And if they do, we'll see where it takes us.
Talking about the game then tomorrow, Bromley. I think it's the first time the clubs have ever met, so that'll be another thing to tick off. How are we looking going into that one, especially injury-wise as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've got a couple of injuries in terms of Max. He's going to be out for a while. I think I mentioned that after one of the games recently. We still haven't got a full timeline on that because there was so much swelling in the area and fluid in the area. I think he is due to have a scan in the coming days because that fluid has settled down now, so we'll get a better timeline on him. Obviously, Tom Sang seems to have sort of come through his issues and he's trained. Ricardo's done the same. Eli's probably still a little bit 50-50 if I'm being honest at the minute. There's no major issues in terms of long term, but anyone who's had bone bruising, will probably testify that it's sore, and obviously in an area where it is on your foot, that takes a while to settle down. We're reasonably confident he'll be okay, but what we won't do and what he won't do is take any risk to make, if it's one of them where he has to miss a game or two, we'll certainly take that on the chin rather than obviously not being able to compete over a number of months.
Well, just finally from me, at the start of a new season, a message to the supporters ahead of the next, it'll be more than 46 games when you add everything else in. I mean, there's 7 games in August, so there's a lot of football to be played. Just a message to the fans ahead of the new campaign. Yeah,
for me, and it's something I said sort of similar to when I walked through the door, and obviously things have been different and have changed now. All I can ask is that they just stick with the players and the group and get behind them as best they possibly can, because there's going to be some sort of testing times and it might be early doors, but all I can say to them is if they do stick with this group, there'll be a group definitely that they'll be proud of. Like the group now, proper people, the proper men, the proper kids in the group, and I promise if they sort of bring their A game, it'll give them a massive opportunity in there to bring theirs. And if that happens, we know, we've seen it before, the togetherness that fans and players and staff alike, when you get it right, it takes a lot of stopping. So that'll be my message. Just literally, they'll give you the output as much as they possibly can, and if you can bring as much noise and much backing as you possibly can, then obviously hopefully we'll have a good season.
Thank you very much.